Hi, welcome to Spiritual Connection. I'm your host, Katie Augustyn. So I am a transformation coach, I'm an energy healer, and a shamanic practitioner. And one of my core values that shows up in many areas of my life is connection. And that was one reason I wanted to start this show, Spiritual Connection. So it's really about connecting with each other as well as connecting more fully with our own spiritual natures. So what we do is feature different people from the community that have things to offer and talk about, and we talk about their spiritual journey and what it was like for them. So we're really happy that you're joining us tonight. Thanks for being here. So tonight, my guest is Neena Perez. Neena is an author, a speaker, a coach, and she has a blog and weekly podcast called Straight Talk, No Sugar Added. I love that title. I want to hear more about that in a few minutes. And she has recently written her autobiography, and this is another great title. It's called Hit Me With Your Best Shot, and I have a copy of it right here. Hit Me With Your Best Shot, How I Overcame a Hard-Hitting Life. And we're going to hear a lot about that in a few minutes as well. Yeah, so Neena tells me that God is using her gifts of humor, strength, and unearthing treasure in others as a way to impart wisdom through her coaching, her writing, her blogging, her teaching, her motivational speaking. Sounds awesome. So welcome to the show, Neena. I'm so happy you're here.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, this is great. You know, we are going to talk about your book and your blog and your podcast, but first what I really want to know is, how was your spiritual journey? What was that like, and how did it get you where you are now? How did it start even?
Well, it started when I was a child. So I was born and raised Catholic. So that was my introduction to knowing about a God or a spiritual journey. And then for a while, I kind of like swayed from that because I had a really tough life, and I kind of got discouraged and didn't really want to know about any of that. And then when I was older, I was seeking something, and I wasn't sure what I was seeking. I just knew I was seeking something. And I got into a practice called Santeria, which is like praying to saints and doing things like that. And it was kind of a dramatic difference, actually. One day I was praying to one of the saints for this religion, and something happened where I almost got like a wake-up call, or something happened which shifted what I was doing. And as I was looking, I said, I don't think this is right, you know. So it was a very dramatic, for me, was a very dramatic experience. And so I went from that to becoming a Christian. And there's a journey in that as well. And I wrote it all in the book.
Yes.
But yeah, but it was a very dramatic experience for me, and something that solidified my spiritual journey, and also made me very connected to Jesus, who is who I believe in and have my faith in right now. So that's where I am at this point in my life. Yeah.
Okay, so that journey over what kind of period of time? You said when you were younger, and then when it first started, when you found what you have now, was that fairly recently?
Yeah, I was an adult. So when I was a child, I did my communion, confirmation, baptized Catholic, the whole thing. And then I think it was like maybe late 20s when I was doing Santeria. I did that for like 5 years. And then I got into I became a Christian at maybe like 28, 29 years old.
Okay.
So about 15 to 18 years or so.
So fairly recently, because I know that what you've shared in your book, because I did get a chance to read your book, by the way.
Oh, great.
Yeah. It's not, in some ways it's not really easy to read because there are a lot of difficult times for you. But tell us how that really defined who you are now.
What's that, writing the book or the journey?
I think the journey, the experiences you had when you were younger.
Oh, yeah, so writing the book was very cathartic for me. It was very healing for me. And all of the things that I've been through, which is a lot, and you're right, it is a hard read, as it was a hard to write. It was really hard to write. But it did mold me into who I am today, and I realized it made me less judgmental. It made me more open-minded. It made me realize that people have journeys. And like you mentioned in your intro about unearthing treasures in others, I realized that I used to be very broken. And people in my church community and stuff just encouraged me and loved me. And that helped bring out in me things I didn't know I had, So I think that everything that I've been through makes me and molds me into who I am today.
Yeah. Isn't it amazing how when you look at someone and you see the person that they really are, not what experiences have done to them, but who they really are, and then what they can be too. It just shifts everything, doesn't it?
Yeah, because I know that's what you like as well, is to connect and to see deeper. And I feel the same way. Our paths may be a little different, but what we see is what is the same, right? We see that someone is significant and they mean something, My husband laughs at me all the time, but I see it even in, someone that you may see in the streets that everybody's passing by. I don't pass by. I get on my knees. I am on the floor with them. We are praying together. I am encouraging them. I just see such power in the atrocities that happens to us, in our lives, I feel like when you overcome that, now you can just take on the next thing, you just get stronger. That's how I see it.
Yeah. Well, you've certainly exemplified that in your life.
Thank you. I've tried. It's not easy.
No, not.
Definitely
no one
not.
said it was easy. And in reading your story, I see that it so many things made you stronger. It wasn't just one thing. A lot of people have one traumatic experience, and they learn from that and grow from that. But I think your title is very apt.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
That title was. It was kind of a funny story as well, because I had written the book and I had no title. I didn't know what to call it. And I was driving to get my hair done, and I didn't have the radio on or anything. I said, all right, God, here's the deal, trying to make deals with God. I said, I have no title for this book. You need to help me. What is the title? And almost audibly, I hear, hit me with your best shot. And I'm like, hit me. And I'm singing, and I'm like, that's the title. That's the title.
Wow.
It was really like that. It was almost like a supernatural thing, And then I had the title, and I think it fits perfectly with the book.
Yeah, it does. So you said that it was a cathartic experience.
Yes.
What made you decide to write the book in the first place?
So the beginning of last year, I don't do resolutions, but what I do is I pray, and then I ask God what He would expect from me. What does He want me to do for Him? And then I say, and what can you expect from me? So like an exchange. And I felt it so hard and strong in my heart, it's time to write your book. And I was like, okay. So it wasn't like I just got up and it's like, I'm writing a book today. It was really a meditation and praying, and it really came to me in a strong way. And so I have a very supportive husband. So I said to him, okay, so this is what I think I heard, that God wants me to write my book. And he was like, then you need to write your book. And I said, well, that means taking a lot of time away from us, because our children are grown now. So he was like, okay. So I literally came home every day after work. I spent about 3 hours or so every day mind mapping the book, and then writing the chapters and writing the book and editing the book. And I wanted to do it quickly. It's my first book, so I didn't realize how long this was going to take. But I put in a lot of time and a lot of effort, and I got it done in 10 months, which I think is really good.
That's amazing.
Yeah. But it was with a lot of sacrifice, a lot of not going out, a lot of not spending a lot of time with my husband, a lot of staying in one spot and doing
Right.
it.
You were just
Yeah.
really focused on
Completely
on the end
focused.
result.
Yeah, because I promised in the prayer that I would do it in the year. I didn't know if I was going to be able to, but I wanted to.
Yeah, that was your intention.
Yeah, yeah.
So there's a lot of family members who don't come across very well in the book
Yes.
because of various reasons and
Yes.
things that happen along the way. How did they receive this? You know, it's a publication now. It's out there
Yeah,
in
it's
the
out there.
public.
Yeah. So I didn't tell anyone, to be honest with you. I told like maybe an aunt here and a cousin there. I'm writing a book, but I didn't tell them what or what it, what was going to be in it completely. I didn't tell my mother, and she didn't take it very well when the book came out. And I'll say that the reason I didn't tell her wasn't because I wanted to hurt her. It was because I didn't want my story to be tarnished or changed. And I knew that if I spoke to her or one of them and they made me feel bad about it, or they didn't want me to say something or express something, the story would have been different.
It would have changed.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have been your full truth.
Right.
Really.
And it wouldn't be the reality. It would be, kind of sugar-coated and fluffed up, and that's not who I am.
Yeah.
So when the book came out, she did find out about it, and she was upset about it, and that's okay. I know that I had to heal while writing it, so I can imagine reading it.
Right.
So I think we're turning a corner a little bit. So we'll see what happens. But me and my mom have mended our relationship years ago. So I think
great.
this was just kind of like a little bit of a, whoa, why is she saying that? So hopefully we will heal and be better and stronger from this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what about your other family members and?
Well, some of them don't care, and some of them have yet to mention it. So, I mean, it is what it is, right? I realize that, you're not always going to get that justification that you are looking for, or that good job that you're looking for, and a lot of times you don't get it from your family. So I love them, and I know they love me, but our family's always gone through a lot, and I always feel like if they feel that way, they've gone through stuff too, and they maybe haven't healed.
Well, that's great. I mean, that shows your compassion. That you're really feeling that way.
I care about them. Yeah, I
sure.
do. Yeah, and I want them to heal. So hopefully this will, start the
Right.
start that journey.
Sometimes that's what happens. You open things up, and light comes in.
Yes.
And
exactly.
people get healed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's great. So when you were ready to publish the book, did you have any second thoughts at all, or you were just everything was just like gung 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 like that?
No, I definitely had second thoughts, third thoughts, fourth thoughts. I definitely had a lot of thoughts because I knew, especially my mom, because I love her so much, I knew it would hurt her the most, because she also had a very hard life and a lot of things, a lot of abuse to her as well. So I knew that this was going to be hard for her. So it took me some time. I had it written. I had it edited like 4 or 5 times. And I said, do I really want to do this? But because of my faith and the fact that I had prayed about it in January and I really strongly felt God was telling me to write this book, I am more, in my life, I am more obedient to God than I am to people, So when I feel like God is literally leading me to do something, I am more obedient to that than my feelings, So even though my feelings were like, oh, I don't know if I should do this, my heart was saying, but yes, but you did,
your heart.
You're supposed to.
So you followed your heart.
Yeah, I did.
And you have a strong faith.
Yes. And that's what I followed.
Yeah.
And it was hard, But I will say one thing that
do you want to show the audience the book
I will
again?
say one thing about this book that has blessed me tremendously is that even though it's hurt, my mom, and I hope we heal from it, and maybe some other family members, it has really helped a lot of people be inspired.
Oh.
And so
Tell me more.
I've had so many people call me, email me, and just be like, I've been through the same thing, Neena, or, this person abused me, or I've been through domestic violence, or, all the, because I have so many events in my life that I can kind of relate to a lot of different people, which is great, right? I mean, not great that not great that I went through it.
It was a lot, and it was a variety of things.
It was a variety of things, and but I'm able to connect now with people, men and women, which surprised me. I thought it was going to be more women, but I've actually had men pick up the book as well, and they're like, wow, Neena, I didn't know that, or this happened to me too, and I'm like, wow. So, and I think people are getting a little bit more comfortable with also knowing they're not alone.
Right.
And especially with the Me Too movement and all that stuff,
I was thinking the same thing,
And I actually started even learning more about the Me Too movement after I wrote this. I don't really watch the news or anything like that, but once this came out and everybody's like, yeah, me too, and I'm like, why does everybody keep saying Me Too? And then I realized it's because of the movement. And I'm like, wow, okay, so I'm in trend and didn't even know I was.
Your timing was good.
Yeah, my timing was good. I had no idea.
In 2018.
But it's helped a lot of people. And for people to say to me, you know what, Neena, you encouraged me. I realized that I don't have to stay stuck here. Or I realized that I've been fearful for a lot of things in my life and I don't need to be,
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, I didn't realize that was going to happen. So that's cool.
Well, it's also, to me, the fact that you changed your life, and so that's a hopeful outcome.
Yes.
So, what do you think the turning point was that caused you to do the things you did? You enrolled in college. You got several degrees, and I'd like to hear a little bit more about that.
Yeah, well, that's actually, I think I wrote it in here too. That was a little bit of a dramatic story too, because I used to be a medical assistant. I did that for 15 years, and I was okay. I worked for a great doctor, so I was fine. But I was getting very anxious and depressed, and I was having a lot of issues, and I couldn't figure it out. So one day I was in prayer, and again, because I'm always in prayer, and I literally said, this is kind of, wacky, but I said, God, you know what? If you want me to go back to school, because I felt like he was telling me it's time to go back to school to be a chef, and I'm like, what? Who does that? I'm a medical assistant and an ultrasound technician. I'm going on the way of being an RN. And nope, that wasn't the answer. So it was like, I really feel like I need to be a chef. So I was home praying, and I said, okay, if you come down here physically and you say to me, Neena, you are released and quit your job and go back to school, I'll do it. But you got to come down here, God. You have to come down here physically and tell me I am released, and I'll do it.
Wow.
And I sat in bed, didn't think anything of it. I finished praying. And about maybe like 40 minutes later or so, 35, 40 minutes later, my husband comes home and he comes into the bedroom. He goes, so I was in the car praying, and I'm like, okay. He goes, God told me to come in here and tell you you're released. And
are you kidding me?
And I said, what did you say? He said, I heard God say, go in there and tell your wife. I said, she's released. I'm like, I almost fell out of the bed.
That's amazing.
I almost fell out of the bed, and I was like, this is, oh my gosh. So then I told him, I said, well, that means I'd have to quit my job and go back to school. He goes, I guess you're quitting your job and going back to school. He's probably like, what is happening?
Yeah, I'm sorry I said anything. Never mind.
Never mind. I take it back. Don't quit your job. But then, so that's what I did. I quit my job. I literally, Katie, I'm driving to school. NCC is where I went. And I'm driving there, and I'm like, okay, I have no money. I just quit my job. I have no idea what their program is, and I'm driving there like blind, right? So as I'm driving, I'm in the car, I said, God, that was so tangible and dramatic that there's no way that I could misinterpret that you told me to go back to school, right? I said, but here's the deal. I hear fathers pay for college, right? I said, and I don't really have a dad. So you're my dad, so you're paying for college, right? Because I don't have any money. This is truly the conversation. I kid you not. So I drove to school, And I applied, and then they were like, we have this scholarship for adult women coming back to school. Would you like to apply? I'm like, yes, I got it. And to be honest with you, not only did I get my certification fully paid, I got my associates fully paid, and I got my bachelor's fully paid. Every
Awesome.
time I applied for classes and applied for any scholarship anywhere, I always got it. My entire degrees were covered. God paid
That's
the entire
awesome.
thing. I never left school paying a dime.
Yeah,
Isn't that
that's
crazy?
great. And now you're a chef.
And now I'm a chef.
Yeah.
I am a chef. I'm an executive chef and a manager, and I love what I do.
So you work full time.
I do.
Yeah.
I work full time.
And don't
I
you
love
also
it.
have a cooking, like a school that you do with kids?
Yeah, I do. I have a business called The Kitty Kitchen, and I do cooking parties for kids. So I go to people's homes, I set up these parties, and we all cook together, and they all get aprons and chef hats, and it's really a lot of fun.
Wow.
So I do that. I do some catering on the side,
You have
and
a
then I
real-
write because I have time.
You have a really busy life.
I do. I have a very busy life, but it's so fulfilling. You know?
Well, it sounds like it.
Yeah.
And you sound like really, really happy and fulfilled, which is so awesome.
Yeah, I am. I can say that too, which is so nice, you know. I used to be so ashamed, and like, I don't want to talk about that, I don't want to talk about molestations and domestic violence and abuse. I don't want to talk about that, And when I finished this, I realized how free I was,
Yeah. Just by telling your story, and the part of it that's really important, I think, is that vulnerability, because when we're vulnerable, it's healing.
Yes.
It heals us and it heals other people,
Yeah.
as you're finding out.
Right. You
People
find
who
your
are
truth.
contacting you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. So are you going to write another, or you keep writing other things? Well, you have your
I
blog.
I do. I have my blog.
tell me
and
about
there,
that.
The blog I write about, it's a couple of things. It's a mishmash. So I do a lot of stories from the Bible. Like I take scriptures and I'll break down what it all means and why it's written that way and things. But I also like to transform people's minds. So I talk about how you can do that, the steps you can take to have more positivity in your life, or, to be able to seek something deeper, So that's really where I'm focused at, like, changing your attitude to gratitude, I call it, that
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that's what I do there, and for the podcast as well.
Podcast as well.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
what about the name? How did you arrive
Straight
at
talk,
that?
no sugar added.
Yeah.
Everybody's always called me a straight talker, And my husband's always, oh my gosh, you're so forward, you're so straight. I'm like, I'm not sugarcoating it. And it kind of just came together. I'm like, oh, you know what? Straight talk, no sugar added. That's it. That's who I am. That's who I am.
Yeah. No, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
So I understand that you're going to also start a cable access TV show, public access.
Yes,
TV show.
I've been thinking a lot about that, like what kind of things I'd want to talk about. And I really want to try to tackle life topics, spiritual topics. And it's also going to be called Straight Talk, No Sugar Added, because I think that's just what it is. It's kind of just straight talking. And also, I want to challenge and transform people's mindsets. That's really what I want to do. Like, I love when you said earlier that you love to have this connection with people, because that's how I feel, and that's how I felt when we first met too. Like we were just sitting there, we were like friends,
I know. It's amazing.
And I felt that way about you, and I feel that way about people. If we can unearth their treasure, if we can find what's in there underneath the pain and the hurt and the anger and frustrations and all of that, we can really help people see what they're really fully made of,
Yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what coaches do, and you do coaching as well.
Yeah.
And I was trained as a transformation coach, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Is seeing that what could be hidden.
Yes.
And having and coaches really just allow people to bring it out.
Yeah, exactly.
And ask those empowering questions that make people see who they really are.
Yeah,
Or
because I think
allow-
we know, right? But it's just pulling off all of this stuff to find it.
Right.
Because that person, at least for me, used to peek her head out all the time. You know, like she would peek out and say, "No, I can do that," and then something would come, a negative thought, or you know, a circumstance or a lack. You know, like sometimes financial lack makes you feel like you're not worthy, or you know, things like that. And I realized she's always been in there, like you said. You know, it's just a matter of how do we make the lies the lies. You know, like how do we show you that those are lies, and that you have a truth, you know? Right. So I'm still going on that journey myself, but.
Well, it's a constant journey.
Yeah.
I mean, so am I. It's like, I don't think it ever ends.
Yeah, I think you're right, Because our stages of life, I think, change too, so, yeah.
Yeah, but it's all about just keeping the growth going, and you know, for me, it's about, like you said, connecting with other people and reaching them where they are.
Yes.
And you know, meeting them where they are.
That's very good.
Yeah. So before we wrap up, I want to go back to your book just for a second, because I think that since it's so new, you're going to be out in the community talking about it, different places.
Yeah, so right now I have a event happening at the Norwalk Public Library, and people can register right online, and it's on February 25th, and it's an author speak.
Okay.
So I'm going to be able to read something out of the book, and then talk about why I wrote the book and what it meant and all that, and then I'm going to take Q&A from the audience.
Oh, that's awesome.
So yeah, that's going to be great. There's going to be a light lunch served because it's at noon.
Okay.
So it's February 25th at noon at the Norwalk Public Library.
Okay, super. Well, thank you so much, Neena,
me,
for being here. It was a real pleasure.
Thank you.
And thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. I'm going to say goodnight. Katie Augustyn, your host on Spiritual Connection. Blessings. Good night.